Hey, what is up, guys? We are at Genesis Gaming after locals, and we have Kyle here with his first place, undefeated, highly requested, probably the most requested deck on the channel, Salamangreat Deck Profile. He's been piloting this deck since Toss format, and
4 years.
It's his heart and soul. He knows this deck in and out. He's the best Salad player.
All right, so let's start with this deck profile. First up,
How many cards do we got main deck?
40.
Nice.
Yeah, it used to be 45, but I had to take it down because I was running into a lot of consistency issues with like drawing specific cards, and like it's just when you have more than 40, you start to understand that you need to take it down. So I decided to like streamline it a little bit, have a little less flexibility with my plays to give overall power. But
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get this
Let's
started.
get into this.
Okay, so 3 kashtira Fenrir. This card is absolutely insane. This card is fundamentally one of the best starters in the format because it puts a body on the field, gives you a consistency piece and follow-up through the second Fenrir, and it's proactive removal while adding to your board, and it's just insane. This card is so disgustingly good.
Yeah, you were at 2 and you were liking the 3 ratio. You think you would keep at 3?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, the 2 ratio was fine because it was like summon Fenrir, search the other one. Now I won't draw it, but like having the 3, just having that consistency is so much more worth it.
Great.
And now we have 3 Ash Blossom. This is one of the best hand traps this format. It takes out a lot of the good plays that other decks have, such as like Brain Infusion, kashtira Theosis, Gigantic Sprite, and
Labyrinth Trap.
Yeah, big welcome. And with purrely, it can shut down the continuous spell, it can shut down some quick play spells, but yeah, Ash Blossom's always been good and will always be good.
And you can recycle it.
Yeah, you can. Then you got 3 Water Enchanters of the Temple. I'm playing the Adventure Engine now, and this engine is just the absolute best for this deck. It gives this deck an insane grind game, insane follow-up, and it adds onto the board and plays around Nibiru, which is this deck's greatest weakness. And let's just put Griffin Rider here as well.
Of course.
This engine is like absolutely nuts. I would suggest getting it when it gets reprinted in Monsters Revenge, considering the other cards are going to be insanely cheap, and these cards will be recently reprinted, so they'll be budget.
Would you be running Salad any other way?
After putting the Adventure Engine in, I considered doing a more pure variant with the cards that are coming out from Duelist of Explosion. I'll have a deck list when those cards come out, but as of right now, Adventure Sal is the way to go. It's the best variant of the deck.
Sounds good.
And now for the Salamangreat package itself, starting out with 3 Flame Buffalo, the best starter in the deck. It can play around Rite of Aramasir because Rite of Aramasir only cares about the effects of monsters that are on the field that were normal summon, and this procs in the graveyard. Discard Cyberse, draw 2. The Cyberse you discard, in theory, does matter, but with specific hands and in this deck's ability to extend, it doesn't really matter which Cyberse you discard. And speaking of Cyberses, 3 Microcoder. This card is so disgusting. This card lets you search out sign a spell or trap cards when you use it from your hand as link material for a Codetalker. Specific setups require you to use it with one of your Salamangreat monsters in order to make just the link to Codetalker, but that's perfectly fine because it sets up for Decotalker Heat Soul really easily, and on the field it can search a level 4 Cybers, but like that barely comes up. The only monsters you can search out in this deck are like Falco and Jack Jaguar, but searching them out is better than not having them at all. And this card is just insanely good in the deck.
Sounds good.
Now for the Salamangreat package, you got 3 Spinny. This is the best Salamangreat monster in this deck because it provides 1 card Splash Mage. You can go this plus this is full Decotalker Heat Soul combo.
Oh, wow.
And it's just great. The 500 attack point boost can also help you push for lethal in certain scenarios.
Yeah.
And for the other Salad monsters, all of them are one-ofs. Gazelle, Foxy, Falco, and Jack Jaguar. Personally, I've run into issues like against Runic, where I would want to have a second Foxy.
Yeah.
Or against matchups where graveyard interaction is rough, like decks that side in DD Crow and decks that side in Ghost Bell, where I would want a second Jack Jaguar. But you've only ever needed 1 Falco. If you want to play a second Foxy or a second Jack Jaguar, I would probably cut back on either the Fenrirs if you can't afford them, or I would probably cut Spinny to 2 and Microcoder to 2, but Microcoder is so good in this deck that I really wouldn't suggest it. I think these are fine ratios for now, but if you want to play more Salamangreat names, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
And now we can move on to...
Bring back Gazelle to 3.
Yeah, please. Like, honestly, it's, like, disheartening how badly Salad has been screwed over. So now we move on to the adventure package of 2 Rite of Aramasir, 1 Fateful Adventure, and 1 Dracoback. This card's searchable off Water Enchanters, so if you draw multiples, it's not really that good. These are obviously at 1 because you never want to draw them. However, drawing them is perfectly fine because getting access to the adventure engine is relatively simple and incredibly easy.
Yeah.
And it just provides this deck a very simple resource loop and a good way to play around interruption and proactively stop your opponent from playing. And now onto the consistency pieces. 3 Signet Mining and 3 Salamangreat Circle. These cards are going to search out mainly either your Salamangreat cards in the case of Circle and Mining, or with just Mining, you can search out either Flame Buffalo or Microcoder.
Yeah.
Whichever piece you're missing. You can also search Signet Mining off of Microcoder, allowing you to extend into your Salad plays if you draw it. If you draw it off a Codetalker Heat Soul, which can summon Gazelle to get Falco, and then now you have Gazelle in rotation.
Nice.
And now onto the rest of the spells. 1 Sanctuary, 1 Will, and 1 Call by the Grave. Sanctuary's always been at 1. Will, you always play at 1. If you ever need more than 1 Will, you're like probably not going to be able to do a lot because you're just running into like multiple problems of drawing this card way too much, and Call by the Grave is always going to be at 1.
Yeah, of course.
Like, unfortunately, it's just one of those things where it's just like...
You kind of need it for the current format.
You do. You really do. This card, Call by the Grave, is insane in this format. And for the traps, 3 Infinite Impermanence and 1 Signet Conflict.
So, how do you like this ratio? Because I know this format, like, there's a lot of 1-for-1, so Infinite, like, with the Ash really does work pretty well, but the Signet Conflict, how do you feel?
Signet Conflict is absolutely worth the inclusion, in my opinion. Negating Banish is absolutely critical to surviving a lot of the 1-for-1 exchanges that you will see in this format. Given that there's a good amount of revival, Signet Conflict is really good against the Access Codetalker package that MathMech tries to go with Transcodetalker.
Yeah.
And this card also helps you out against exactly Branded Fusion.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
it locks you out of activating it for the remainder of the next 2 turns.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah, and then Negate and Banish, it also, like, really messes up Marincess. Like, this card single-handedly wins me a lot of games against decks who are reliant on the graveyard.
Did that happen today in your game against Marincess?
Yeah. I conflicted a blue Tang.
Nice.
The game was literally over.
So no Circle, or sorry, no the Omni Negate Salad Trap card.
This deck is not designed to end on Salamangreat monsters. This deck is designed to end on Codetalker Heat Soul.
Okay.
When I get the cards from Duelist Explosion, I'll have a more Salamangreat-oriented list. But for right now, the Salamangreat Link monsters are more so there for your grind game and bridging into the Access Codetalker package, while recurring resources like Ash Blossom and other cards that are going to be in the sideboard.
It's crazy going second because you just get such an easy access code to blow apart boards, or you could just go in first.
Going second, this deck actually has a lot of things going for it. The Adventure Engine baits out negates, Kashtira Fenrir baits out negates, and the Codetalker package with Microcoder and Flame Buffalo gives you so many tools to access, specifically the amount of cards that you are going to draw. Siding in and siding out is extremely easy in this deck. You just side out one of copies of cards you have at 3. And now to move on to the extra deck.
Yeah, let's do it.
3 Salamangreat Baelinks, 3 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf,
Nice.
and 2 Salamangreat Heat Leo. Now, and we'll also just lump Mirage Stallion in there as well.
Is this pretty standard, or?
People don't actually play these 3.
Oh, really?
Because these 3 would be replaced by, what is it? Update Jammer, a second Splash Mage, and a second Transcodetalker. And I understand that. However, the Adventure Engine, from my personal experience, Heat Leo is really good against Labyrinth. And Mirage Stallion is here for when the Adventure Engine doesn't resolve and you need to access at least some portion of the Codetalker Heat Soul package. Sunlight Wolf is here for essentially being a way to get Codetalker Heat Soul off the field.
Yeah.
Because the reason you'd want to get it off the field is because sometimes you want to use Sunlight Wolf's effect to bring back certain Salamangreat smother traps like Circle and Will. And this also works really well with Jack Jaguar, Falco, and Gazelle. And it just allows you to go ahead and bring back cards like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring for when you're up against
It's crazy.
And,
or Kurikara.
Oh, yeah. It's nuts. And Banelinks is just here because it's the mandatory Link 1. This card is absolutely nuts. You're not going to banish it from your graveyard likely to protect your Salamangreat cards because ending on them is very infrequent.
Yeah.
However, keeping it in your graveyard for when you're going into your second turn to allow your Sunlight Wolf to resist destruction protection is absolutely critical for maintaining this deck's grind game.
Okay.
And now to move on to the non-salad extra deck portion. Link Spider, Codetalker, Splash Mage, Codetalker Heat Soul, Codetalker, and Access Codetalker.
Wow.
So, Link Spider serves two purposes in this deck.
How do you like it?
Link Spider, I haven't really summoned it that much, but that's because people have stopped playing Nibiru. Because, like...
Oh, it's a Nibiru thing?
Yeah, at one point I was like... Yeah, at one point I was like...
Oh, you go into it with the token.
Got hit. Yeah, you use the Nib token to go into this. And then, because like one time I got Nibiru on my Sunlight Wolf, and I was like, all right, Gazelle effect, special summon itself from the hand, Nibiru token into the Link Spider, use this and the Gazelle to make Splash Mage, and then Splash Mage into Codetalker Heat Soul, and I just punched the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Codetalker is here for your mandatory Link 2 for Microcoder. This card being a dark is insane because you can use it and Banelinks to make Codetalker Heat Soul. Splash Mage can bring back Flame Buffalo. So if you haven't summoned Flame Buffalo this turn, like if you sent it off Fateful Adventure, you can use these two to make Codetalker Heat Soul and then get the discard draw 2 because it only negates the effects of the monsters that are on the field.
Yep.
Codetalker Heat Soul is the soul of this deck because this deck is fully built around it, getting it onto the field and then using its effect to draw very powerful cards. Like
your hand traps,
Yeah, the hand traps. There's not a lot of hand traps in this list. If you want to play like Ghost Ogre and Troll and Lockbird, that's perfectly fine. But Kashtira Fenrir is just a better starter overall and a better comeback card.
Yep.
Codetalker is absolutely insane. It can bring back either Codetalker Heat Soul or Splash Mage.
Oh, yeah.
And then Splash Mage can bring back Buffalo. Then you can use those and make Codetalker Heat Soul if you recycled it with Wolf. And Access Codetalker is the linchpin win condition of every single deck ever made nowadays. So it's no surprise it's in here. You're going to have a multitude of attributes because you got Earth, Dark, Water, and Fire. So that's 4 pops, which is a lot. And if you don't win the game off 4 pops, something has either gone very, very wrong or you weren't winning the game anyways.
Whenever you go into this guy, it's always game. It's never not been game.
Yeah, because I ensure that it's game.
Yeah. That's fair.
And now to move on to the sideboard. The sideboard can be very flexible. I choose to side in board breakers and cards that will ensure me games against decks that I couldn't normally deal with my main deck alone. So
that's fair.
Start 3 Div Incarnate. This card is absolutely one of the best board breakers in the format. This card going second forces It doesn't really force your opponent to play around it because there really is no playing around it because there's no guarantee that you have it until you drop it. But once you drop this card usually says game because it either wins through battle damage and getting rid of your opponent's resources while also being huge, or by stealing an opponent's playmaker and just winning the game from there. Like at one point, I used Div Incarnate against Branded Dark Magician, and I used Div Incarnate's effect in the end phase to summon a Dragoon to Wolf Zone.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was busted. This card
That's
is so
crazy.
insanely good. You can also bring it back with Wolf.
Yeah.
So, like, if your opponent doesn't kill you on that turn, you always have this as a threat. Yeah. It's just insane. This card is so nuts.
Love it.
For the branded matchup, because fuck that deck, you got 3 DD Crow and 2
Wow.
Ghost Bell.
Makes sense.
DD Crow is actually looking to be relatively good coming up in the Duelist Nexus format because Striker is going to be a very good deck. So getting rid of any form of their consistency through Engage is insane. And Ghost Bell is just in here because it's another DD Crow for Sanctifier. And obviously these cards are going to do well against like Marincess. And even this deck can lose to these cards, but
Yeah.
the deck that I built it in a way to minimize that.
So you wouldn't play Bastiles over the Crows?
No, Crow's way more flexible. It can get rid of Branded Fusion when they try to add it back with certain card effects. Same thing with the Marincess spell and trap cards, and same thing with the Sky Striker spell and trap cards.
It's good against my fusion duplication.
Yeah, it's really good against fusion duplication. DD Crow's an all-star.
Yep.
And then you got 3 Dogoran.
Ooh.
The reason I have Dogoran is because it's a fire monster, so you can bring it back with Wolf, but more likely than not, you're going to be bouncing this back to your hand with Dracoback and summoning it again.
Holy crap, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's absolutely rancid. It's like, this card is really, really solid in terms of what it does, but it could literally be any kaiju. I would recommend you have Gamma Seals instead of Dogoran, because sometimes the 3,000 attack points is a little bit of a struggle if you only have the Adventure Token and Heat Soul, because then you can't kill it. Also, if you are going up against any sort of dinosaur deck in the meta, because of Wild Survivors, I would suggest playing Gamma Seal all the time, because of slow attack points.
Yeah.
And then for the last part of the Adventure Engine, Illegal Knight.
Ooh.
This card is Griffin Rider, but only good going second. Being able to give this card to your opponent to bounce 2 cards they control and then bounce it back with Dracoback is disgusting. It helps you play around Tikaboo, because the Adventure Engine does in its entirety, because the Adventure Token's a fairy, Griffin Rider's a winged beast, Water Enchanter's a spellcaster, Illegal Knight's a fiend, so like this deck can play around Tikaboo to an extent because of Dracoback.
Yeah.
And this card helps it out significantly. This card is really, really good in the Labyrinth matchup because it forces them to use their trap cards, otherwise they go back to the hand. And it's really good against Runic because it can bounce Messenger a piece.
Ooh.
And then for the last part, 2 Lightning Storms and a Twin Twister.
Oh, wow.
Lightning Storm, obviously it got semi-limited, so rip Lightning Storm, but that's besides the point. This card is still absolutely insane and should always be played in the sideboard. And Twin Twisters is in here because Cosmic Cyclone's life point cost is going to be very significant in Game 3 when you're already paying life points with Codetalker Heat Soul. And because this deck draws an insane amount of cards through Flame Buffalo and Codetalker Heat Soul, this card has a better time in this deck, along with also having a wider range because it can deal with like Runic back row, like Messenger a piece, Skill Drain, and Tikaboo. It can also deal with other floodgates like
Labyrinth,
Skill Drain, like Labyrinth. It takes out Labyrinth's Field Spell. This card is also really good against Branded because it forces them it forces them to reactively do Branded in red or Branded Retribution. I would suggest playing this card in the upcoming format because of Altergeist from Duelist Nexus. You getting these 2 spell and trap cards off the field is going to be significantly more important than banishing a single one.
How do you feel about Harpy Feather Duster and Evenly Match? Would you ever run those over those options?
I've been considering it, obviously, because those cards are way more able to take games by themselves, but I don't have Evenly Matched at this point, and someone else is borrowing my Duster, so I'm kind of just playing with what I have. But if you have Evenly Matched and you have a Duster, I would highly suggest it. Those cards are insane this format.
Great. And that was the whole side deck?
Yep, that's everything.
Wow. Okay, so would you say, so for people who want to run Salad, would you say that this is the best list, kind of like with the Adventure and then the Codetalkers with the Fenrir, or they're kind of like, until the new support, like with the new support, would you also be like, what with the new support, is that better than what you have right now, or would you play the new support over the build you have right now?
So I've done testing with the new support, and unfortunately, to all of those who believe that new cards are going to be a benefit, they are wrong.
Really?
Unfortunately, this is probably the best variant of Salad you can play. Obviously, ratios can be changed around. Like, if you don't have Kashtira or Fenrir, I would suggest playing additional Foxy, additional Jack Jaguar, maybe additional copies of cards in the Adventure Engine, because I'm only playing like 2 Rite of Aramis here. If you want to play 3, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to play other hand traps like Ghost Ogre, go ahead. I won't stop you. But in terms of what Salad wants to be doing, I think this is the absolute pinnacle of what it can do in this format.
No, that's awesome. I'm really glad that we were able to get a deck profile. It's very highly requested.
Yeah,
and
I know. It's about time. With the new Salad cards, there's going to be a video coming out soon where I go more in depth as to how those cards impact Salad, their placement, in the deck and in the format and their impact on the meta. So keep in tune for that. And after those cards come out, I will have a deck profile for those cards because you can make Barone
Under 5. Yeah, that's so pretty good.
Into your normal summon, it's insane because you can make Barone with the new Raging Phoenix and Search R. It's just like, wow, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But like this deck is significantly better than that thing ever will be. But I'll still give it to you guys if you want to play a more pure variant. But that's really about it. Thanks
Hell
for
yeah.
watching.
Yeah, thanks for the deck profile, Kyle.
Welcome. Shout out to MetaGamesGX for having me on the channel. Shout out to the Shadow Realm, as always. And yeah, thank you for watching very much. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video with all your friends.
Oh, thank you. Well, have a good one, guys. See you later.